Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 5 of the Historical Tornadoes Season 1. Today, we're going to be talking about the Flint-Beecher, Michigan F5 that occurred on June 8th, 1953, and was part of a much larger um, regional tornado outbreak in a lot of Michigan, Ohio, and those areas that became known as the Flint-Worcester tornado outbreak sequence. Let's go ahead and hop into the deadliest tornado of that outbreak. This was also the deadliest tornado in Michigan's history, and today we're going to be talking about it. Monday, June 8th, 1953 was a very ordinary day for millions of people across the United States, but in the town of Flint, Michigan and Beecher, Michigan, this day was far from ordinary. The rating of this tornado was an astounding F5 rating, and it started at around 8:30 p.m. that night, and it lasted for about 20 miles on the ground and had a maximum width of about 833 yards. There were 116 deaths with this tornado, making it the deadliest tornado in Michigan's history. It had 844 injuries, and around 1953 US dollars, it caused around $19 million in damage. And in 2024, that would amount to $223 million damage, so a very damaging tornado of its time. And it had recorded wind speeds of over 261 miles per hour, so a very violent tornado at that. Prior to the tornado, just prior to the tornado touching down, eyewitness accounts recalled that an approaching thunderstorm with several intense lightning strikes turned the northwest sky a dark black yellow-green color. The U.S. Weather Bureau, predecessor of today's National Weather Service, observations that evening recorded a temperature of 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius, with a dew point of 71 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius, and a barometric pressure reading that fell to 28.89 inches of mercury, 978 HPA. Surface map analysis showed a frontal system associated with a strong low pressure moving west across lower Michigan. At 7:30 p.m., the Weather Bureau's Severe Storms Unit issued a severe weather bulletin alerting of the threat of hazardous weather for southeast lower Michigan. The tornado. At approximately 8:30 p.m., the tornado touched down in Mount Morris Township north of Flushing, near the intersection of Webster and Coldwater Roads. The first reported observation from the Weather Bureau's Flint station came just minutes after the tornado touched down. Unconfirmed tornado reported 2 miles north of Flushing, heading east-northeast, possibly hitting Flint 2033 east. It began to take a path directly east down the Coldwater Road corridor, entering the residential neighborhoods of the Beecher district, a Flint suburb. Moving at approximately 35 miles per hour, or 56 kilometers per hour, the tornado cut a path 833 yards wide. In a time before the routine issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, the residents of Beecher had almost no advanced warning other than actually sighting the tornado heading towards them. Victims recalled hearing the incredible roar from the tornado and seeing its black funnel before heading for shelter in home basements. The densely populated Beecher neighborhoods took a direct hit, with several single-family houses being completely destroyed. Witnesses recalled that the tornado's massive funnel resembled black smoke and was accompanied by smaller multiple vortices. Others reported seeing fireballs within the debris of the tornado. Beecher High School was heavily damaged as it was directly struck. The tornado's path also came close to the North Flint Drive-In Theater. Patrons evacuated the drive-in to their vehicles. Some got into vehicle crashes in the ensuing panic to flee, while others inadvertently drove into the path of the tornado after leaving the theater. The theater itself received only minor damage. After leaving Beecher, the tornado took an east-northeast path, following just south of the Flint River, where it ravaged farms, causing more casualties and destruction near the rural communities of Genesee, Richfield Center, and Columbiaville. The tornado stayed on the ground for 18.6 miles, or about 30 kilometers, and ultimately dissipated north of Lapeer, near Five Lakes Road in Lapeer County's Deerfield Township. Within minutes, a second tornado formed near where the original Flint-Beecher tornado left the ground. That tornado reached F4 wind speeds and continued east through rural farmlands in Lapeer and St. Clair counties, causing more injuries and damage before moving out over Lake Huron. The aftermath of the tornado. While most of the tornado's 18.6 mile path, or about 30 kilometers, as I said, went through rural farmland, the majority of the devastation was concentrated in the Beecher district. 113 of the 116 fatalities from the tornado occurred in Beecher, including 54 children under the age of 18, with multiple deaths occurring in 20 families. Absolutely tragic. The two greatest losses were exacted to the families of Pedro Gatica and Thomas Gonzalez. Both men survived but lost their entire families. Gatica, a worker at General Motors, had been at work when the tornado struck. While his small home was directly in the path of the storm, his wife Cecilia, who was 8 months pregnant with their third child, was killed, as were their two small children and a niece who lived with them. Gadsell had been at home with his wife Vanessa and their four children when their home was blown apart. Only Thomas survived. 8 area hospitals, including 3 in Saginaw, were involved in treating victims. Some accounts recalled employees of Flint's automobile industry leaving factories to head to the site to discover whether or not their families had survived. Large sections of neighborhoods were completely destroyed. It was the last tornado to kill more than 100 people until it was surpassed by the Joplin, Missouri tornado on May 22, 2011. The last F5 tornado in Michigan was the Hudsonville-Standell tornado of April 3, 1956. It was debated in the U.S. Congress at the time whether recent atomic bomb testing in the upper atmosphere had caused tornadoes, including this one. Congressman James E. Van Zandt, our pen, was among several members of Congress who expressed their belief that the June 4th bomb testing created the tornadoes, which occurred far outside the traditional tornado alley. They demanded a response from the government. Meteorologists quickly dispelled such an assertion, and Congressman Van Zandt later retracted his statement. This is what the path of the tornado looked like. You can see it started just north of Flushing, went through Beecher, just north of Flint, and then it ended around Columbiaville and went south of Otisville. Here are some pictures of the damage of that tornado, including one that shows a mangled car to beyond recognition. Couple more photos of some flattened homes and debarked trees. Absolutely unreal tornado and uh, just a violent monster, and perhaps one of the most violent tornadoes in Michigan's history. Um, Absolutely crazy. My closing thoughts on this tornado, saying a very violent tornado, part of a bigger tornado outbreak that occurred during June 7th to 9th, 1953, which I will cover at some point, and caused 50 tornadoes that killed 251 people and caused around $4 billion in damage, amounting to 2024. I will cover the outbreak tomorrow evening in a much larger video, but here is the violent Flint-Beecher, Michigan tornado that ended up being the deadliest tornado in Michigan's history. Thank you, and watch out for part 6.